From weird food to strange laws. Here are 20 things that confuse people when they visit the USA. Welcome back, everyone. Here with another episode of our channel where we bring you all the best and worst things happening in and about America. But today, we're going to be looking at some of the strangest things about this country that make people from abroad scratch their heads and wonder what the heck is going on around them. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Number 1, tipping culture. This is one of the most common things that trip people up when visiting the United States for the first time, because it really isn't done anywhere else in the world like it is here. Most countries have service charges built into the price of the meal, so you don't need to worry about leaving an extra tip on top of that. In America, though, it is expected that you will leave an additional 15 to 20% tip on top of your bill. And if you don't, people will look at you kind of funny. It can be confusing for tourists who aren't used to doing this. But it's just something you've got to do if you want good service in the USA. No. 2, large portions. Americans love their food, and that means large portions. When you go to a restaurant in the United States, you can expect to get more food than you can eat, even if you order an appetizer. Many restaurants will even let you take your leftovers home with you if you ask. This is great for those of us who like to save money by eating out, but it can be a little overwhelming for tourists who aren't used to seeing such big portions. The good news is that there are plenty of places to try smaller portions or even shareable plates if you ask. But don't be surprised if you see plates piled high with food when you sit down to eat in the United States. No. 3, bottled water. Another thing that confuses tourists is the fact that Americans buy bottled water everywhere. Many people from other countries are used to getting their drinking water straight from the tap, but this isn't always safe in the United States. Tap water can be contaminated with lead or other harmful chemicals in some areas, so it's important to use caution. That's why you see many locals carrying around bottles of water or using a filter to purify their drinking water at home. If you're not sure about the safety of the tap water wherever you're staying, be sure to ask a local or check online before taking any sips. No, for public transportation. If you're used to traveling by train or bus in Europe, you might be in for a rude awakening when you visit the United States. Public transportation just isn't as developed here, and in many cities, it's pretty much non-existent. Many Americans rely on driving as their primary form of transportation, and there isn't much infrastructure in place for biking or walking. This can make getting around a city or town quite challenging, especially if you don't have a car. But don't worry, ride-sharing services are available in most places now, so it's easy to get around without owning your own set of wheels. Number 5, cashiers versus waiters. In many countries, waiters are responsible for taking your order and bringing you your food and drinks. In the United States, however, cashiers are responsible for taking your order and preparing your food, while waiters simply serve you drinks. This means that if you want a refill on your beverage, you'll need to flag down a waiter rather than waiting for your server to come back and take your order. This can be a bit confusing for tourists. But it's important to remember that each country has its own customs and traditions. So it's just something you'll need to get used to when visiting the United States. Number 6, the national sport. You may be surprised to learn that baseball isn't actually the national sport of the United States, even though it's often referred to as America's pastime. In fact, the national sport is technically basketball. This is because the game was invented in the United States and has been played here ever since. Baseball, on the other hand, is a bat and ball game that originated in England. It became popular in the US during the 1800s and is still enjoyed by many people today. However, it's not technically the national sport. Number 7. Supermarkets. If you're used to shopping for groceries in a traditional European supermarket, you might be in for a shock when you visit a typical American supermarket. For starters, they're much bigger, which means you'll need to do a lot of walking to find everything you need. Plus, they often have items that aren't available in other countries, which can make it tough to stick to your healthy eating goals. And then there's the prices. They can vary widely depending on where you live, but in general, they're higher in the United States than they are abroad. Number 8. The Electoral College. The Electoral College is a group of electors who are responsible for electing the President of the United States. Each state has a certain number of electors based on its population and the number of representatives it has in Congress when you vote for a candidate. You're actually voting for that candidate's party, not the individual. The party with the most electors wins, and that candidate becomes the president. This system is unique to the United States and can be confusing for tourists who are unfamiliar with it. Number 9. Interstate highways. In the United States, there are over 65,000 miles of interstate highways. These are roads that connect different states and allow drivers to travel across the country without having to pay tolls. However, they can be very busy and congested, especially during peak hours. The good news is that there are plenty of other options for getting around, such as taking a train or flying. Number 10. Food portions. Many Americans are used to eating large portions of food, but this can be shocking to tourists who aren't. For example, a typical fast food meal in the United States comes with fries, a drink, and a burger or sandwich. And the portions are often huge. It's not uncommon for people to take their leftovers home with them. And if you're not used to eating so much, it can be difficult to finish everything on your plate. Number 11. Time zone. There are 5 time zones in the United States, but most of the country follows Eastern Standard Time. This can be confusing for tourists because it's different from the time zone in most other countries. Number 12. Phone plugs. In the United States, the standard phone plug is the Type A plug. This is the same type of plug that's used in Canada, Mexico, Japan, and China. However, many other countries use different types of plugs, which means that tourists will need to bring a converter if they want to use their electronics in America. Number 13. Superstitions. Americans are known for being superstitious, and this can be confusing to tourists who aren't familiar with local beliefs. For example, it's bad luck to walk under a ladder in the United States. And breaking a mirror is said to bring 7 years of bad luck. Number 14. Using turn signals. In some countries, it's customary to use a turn signal when changing lanes. However, this is not always the case in the United States. Many drivers will change lanes without signaling their intentions, which can cause confusion and lead to accidents. If you're driving in America, it's important to be aware of this and use your turn signals properly. Number 15. Customer service. Customer service is important in any country, but it's especially important in the United States. Many businesses rely on customer satisfaction to stay in business. That means that if you have a problem with a product or service, it's important to speak up. In many other countries, customers are expected to be more passive and simply accept whatever it is that they're given. But in the United States, it is not uncommon for customers to demand a refund or exchange if they are not satisfied with their purchase. Number 16. Different accents. The United States is a large country with a lot of different accents. This can be especially confusing to tourists from Britain who are used to hearing only one accent. Some of the most common accents in the United States include the Midwestern accent, the Southern accent, and the New York accent. but there are also many regional variations within those accents. Number 17. American English. As a tourist, you may notice that Americans use a different version of the English language. While it's similar to British English, there are some key differences. For example, Americans tend to use contractions more often, and they also drop the H sound in words like honest. This can make it difficult to understand some Americans, but it's important to remember that they're still speaking English, just in a different way. Number 18. Trash cans. In many cities, trash cans are separated by type of waste. This means that you'll need to sort your trash into different bins before putting it out for collection. This can be confusing for tourists who aren't used to doing this, but it's important to follow local guidelines to avoid fines. Number 19. Air conditioning. In the United States, air conditioning is a necessity, especially during the summer months. Many buildings are kept at a comfortable temperature year-round. This means that if you're not used to air conditioning, you may find it quite chilly inside. Number 20. Raising the middle finger. This is definitely one gesture that can confuse tourists, because in America, raising the middle finger is a sign of anger or aggression. In many other cultures, it's considered rude and even obscene. So if you see someone giving you the middle finger, just ignore it. It's not personal. Well, that's it for this video. We hope you enjoyed learning about some of the strangest things about the United States. If you're a tourist, be sure to keep these things in mind when visiting so that you don't cause any offense or confusion. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.